She blinked slowly, still unsure if she was awake or caught between a memory and a dream. Her head ached, not in the sharp physical sense, but with the weight of forgotten things. Her body felt foreign, weak, and yet, those three small hands in hers still lingered with warmth. Real warmth. She turned her head and found Dapo sitting beside her, his hand resting lightly on her arm, his face still watching her like he might lose her again. "I don't remember anything," she said quietly. Dapo gave a small, understanding nod. "That's okay. The doctor said it might take time. Hello, bestie. Please stay with me as I unfold this interesting romantic story." If you enjoy the story, please support us by subscribing to this channel and hit the notification button for more. Thank you. Grab your popcorn, sit back, relax, and enjoy this story. The silence in Lagos General's VIP medical wing was a living thing. It had learned to breathe with the machines, to sleep with the rhythm of beeping monitors, and to whisper its prayers only in the presence of hope. For 4 years, hope was all that remained in room 706. Until now, the subtle flicker of an eyelid caused Nurse Ronk to freeze mid-step. She squinted at the woman on the bed, the same woman she had bathed, fed, and spoken to like a sister for over 1,000 days. Then came a twitch of the fingers. "Doctor!" she shrieked. "She's moving! She's awake!" Within moments, the room turned into a whirlwind of white coats, wires, and voices. But for Amaka, the world came slowly, like water trickling into a dry riverbed. Her lips moved, dry, chapped, struggling to form sound. "Where am I?" The doctor moved to her side, professional yet visibly shaken. "Mrs. Adewale, you're in Lagos General. You've been unconscious, but you're safe now." Her brow furrowed. "How long?" He paused, then answered gently, "For years." Amaka's breath hitched. Before she could process it, the room fell into stillness once more as the door creaked open, and a man entered. Tall, dark-skinned, clad in a finely tailored kaftan, eyes red from sleepless nights and too many prayers that once felt unanswered. He rushed to her side. "Amaka," he whispered, cradling her hand. "It's me, Dapo, your husband." She stared at him. Something stirred in her chest, something familiar, yet far away. His eyes held hers like gravity. Then, slowly, 3 little heads peeked from behind him. A boy and 2 girls dressed in matching ankara. The smallest of them, with her mother's eyes, clutched a handmade drawing of a sleeping woman with a crown. The boy stepped forward first, voice trembling. "Mommy, are you really awake now?" Amaka blinked. "Mommy? They're yours," Dapo said, tears streaming down his face. "You gave birth to them, the day of the accident." Her heartbeat raced. "I gave birth? Yes, triplets. You never got to hold them. Not until today." The girl with the drawing tiptoed forward and gently placed it on Amaka's lap. "We prayed for you every night, Mommy." Tears flowed down Amaka's cheeks as she looked into 3 pairs of innocent eyes. Strangers, yet connected to her soul in a way she couldn't explain. She opened her arms. Slowly, painfully, they climbed onto the bed and clung to her like they had done it every day of their lives. And Dapo, he leaned in and kissed her forehead. "Welcome back, my love." Amaka didn't know if this was a dream, but if it was, she didn't want to wake up. Not ever again. The sunlight spilled through the hospital blinds, painting golden streaks across Amaka's face. She blinked slowly, still unsure if she was awake or caught between a memory and a dream. Her head ached, not in the sharp physical sense, but with the weight of forgotten things. Her body felt foreign, weak, and yet, those 3 small hands in hers still lingered with warmth. Real warmth. She turned her head and found Dapo sitting beside her, his hand resting lightly on her arm, his face still watching her like he might lose her again. "I don't remember anything," she said quietly. Dapo gave a small, understanding nod. "That's okay. The doctor said it might take time. Your brain went through a lot." Amaka's eyes fluttered closed again as fragmented images flickered across her mind like broken glass in sunlight. A blue car, rain, screeching tires, a scream, a tightening in her belly. A sudden jolt, then silence. I was pregnant, she murmured, staring up at the ceiling. Yes, Depo's voice broke a little. You went into labor that morning. We were driving to the hospital, but the road was wet, and his voice trailed off, but the pain in it filled the silence. I didn't get to hold them? She asked. He shook his head. No, they were delivered via emergency C-section. You slipped into a coma before you ever saw them. Amaka turned her head to the left, where a bouquet of fresh lilies sat by the window. A card hung from it in clumsy crayon letters. Welcome home, Mommy. She swallowed hard. What are their names? She whispered. Depo smiled, eyes glistening. The boy is Ayatund. The girls, Amara and Anjola. I named them with your mum's help. Amaka tried to sit up, but her arms trembled, and Depo quickly steadied her. I've missed so much, she said, her voice cracking. You were fighting for your life, Maka. That fight gave them a mother to meet today. She closed her eyes, tears seeping from the corners. I missed their first words, their first steps. They've only ever known you through stories, your pictures on the walls, and the way I talked to you every night before they slept. They would touch the glass and say goodnight to you through the screen. A long silence followed. Then softly, she asked, Did you ever stop believing I'd wake up? He looked down, ashamed. There were days I doubted, days I broke. But every time I saw their faces, I saw you. She turned her head away, her chest tight with a mix of gratitude and grief. Depo added, I took over Adiwale Holdings fully after your father passed. I wanted to make sure there would be something waiting for you. For them. I even kept your seat on the board, waiting, hoping. The door creaked open gently, and 3 tiny heads poked in. Can we come in? Ayatund asked shyly. Amaka managed a weak smile. Please. They ran in, Amara holding a plush bunny, and Jola with her drawing pad, Ayatund with a toy car in his hand. Mommy, Anjola said, crawling into her lap carefully. Do you want to color with me? Amaka laughed through her tears. I'd love to. Depo stood back, quietly watching his family fit together like scattered puzzle pieces finally coming home. For the first time in 4 years, laughter returned to room 706. And for the first time in 4 years, Amaka wasn't a woman lost in a coma. She was a mother, a wife, a woman slowly putting her memories and her life back together. That night, the hospital room quieted again, but Amaka remained wide awake. The triplets had long fallen asleep in the private lounge just outside her room, curled up in blankets on a couch that Depo had custom-ordered to make the space feel like home. Their soft breathing through the glass partition brought her a strange comfort, even though her body still felt foreign. She stared at the ceiling as Depo added just her pillows, gently helping her sit up with more ease. You should rest, he said softly, his voice rich like velvet, laced with concern. I've been resting for 4 years, she said, turning to look at him. Now I need to understand. Everything. He pulled a chair closer and sat, resting his elbows on his knees. Ask me anything. She stared at his hands, large, strong, the kind that had built empires and held her hand through a coma. Why didn't you give up on me? She whispered. Depo smiled gently. Because I made a vow, in sickness and in health. You may not remember our wedding, but I do. You walked down the aisle in that white gown with lace sleeves, your eyes full of fire. You looked at me and said, Don't love me halfway. Love me whole or not at all. And so I did. I waited. Amaka blinked back tears. But 4 years? She asked. People would have moved on. Even remarried. He looked away, his jaw tightening. I almost did. Her stomach turned slightly. There was someone else? There was. An attempt, he admitted. Not out of love. Out of pressure. From family. From the board. From loneliness. But every time I looked at her, I saw you. And it felt wrong. I ended it before it started. Amaka nodded slowly. So many changes. Your face has aged. Not badly, she added with a smile. But you've carried a lot. He laughed softly, his eyes warming. You haven't changed a bit. Still stubborn. still beautiful. Silence fell between them, thick with things unsaid. Tell me about the company, she said finally. About our life before the accident. He leaned back. You were the real CEO, you know. I was just the investor. You built a Maca Foundation, expanded our fashion branch into Dubai and Accra, and created a maternal care program in memory of your sister, Ifyananya. She gasped. Ifyananya. You lost her 2 months before you gave birth, he said, reaching for her hand gently. You named one of the girls Amara Grace because you said Grace kept you from falling apart. A lump formed in her throat. She couldn't remember that version of herself. The strong, bold Amaka who started foundations, expanded brands, carried loss with grace. All she saw now was the woman trapped in a hospital bed. What if I can't become her again? She asked. Depo squeezed her hand. You don't have to become her again. Just be here now. For me. For them. That's enough. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. You say that like I haven't been gone. You were never gone, he said quietly. Your body slept, but your spirit stayed with us. I spoke to you every night. I told you stories of the kids, board meetings, even the time Ayatund cut his hair with a kitchen knife. Amaka chuckled weakly. He did what? He wanted to look like Super Zeno, Depo said, laughing. Left a bald patch the size of Nigeria on his head. The tension melted slowly. The past felt less like a stranger now, more like a room with a broken light bulb. Familiar, just waiting for a switch. I want to know you again, she whispered. I never stopped knowing you, he replied, brushing his thumb across her knuckles. Let's start from here. Tonight. She nodded, suddenly overwhelmed by gratitude for this man who had loved her through silence, through years of stillness, through temptation and grief. Depo stood up and leaned down, gently brushing his lips against her forehead. Good night, my wife. And as the machines beeped softly in rhythm with her heartbeat, Amaka whispered, Good night, my love. The next morning, Amaka woke not to the sound of machines, but to tiny giggles and the quiet shuffle of socked feet. Sunlight danced across the curtain edges, casting a warm glow over the room. She turned her head, and there they were, her 3 miracles, hovering at the door, whispering furiously among themselves. She's awake again, Ayatund whispered with awe. I told you she would be, Amara responded, and Jola tiptoed forward. Can we go in now? Amaka smiled and slowly lifted her hand. Yes, babies. Coma. They didn't walk, they ran. Like birds finally set free from a cage of waiting. Each child found a side of her to cling to. Ayatund on the right, Amara on the left, and Njola right across her legs. Their presence was overwhelming. Not in noise, but in emotion. The scent of baby shampoo, the sound of their tiny voices, the feel of their warm little fingers wrapping around hers. She studied them as though trying to memorize a painting she never got to see being drawn. Amaka took a deep breath and whispered, Let me know you, one by one. Ayatund, he was the first to respond. Me first. Ayatund, her only son, had the quiet strength of a boy who'd grown up a little too fast. His dark eyes were solemn, curious, yet filled with pride. He sat tall on the bed like a miniature protector. What's your favorite thing to do? She asked. I like building things, he said. I made a house with blocks for your picture one time. Daddy says I'm an engineer already. She reached up, brushing his cheek with trembling fingers. You are. You're the builder of dreams, Ayatund. Just like your grandfather. He beamed. When you were sleeping, I told you stories. Did you hear them? I think I did, she said, her voice tight with emotion. I just didn't know they were from you. I'll tell you new ones now, he promised, and pulled out a small brown notebook from his backpack. This is my dream book. I wrote one dream for you every week. Amaka blinked rapidly, taking the little book in her hands. The pages were filled with crayon scribbles, stick figures, and words like, Mommy eats pancakes with us. Mommy comes to my birthday. Mommy smiles. She kissed his forehead. I'm going to read every one of them. Njola, the artist. Next came Njola, the softest of the 3. Her curls bounced as she scooted into Amaka's lap and opened a colorful sketchbook. I drew you, she said shyly. Each page was covered with drawings of a sleeping woman surrounded by stars, hearts, and sometimes tears. Amaka's heart broke in the most beautiful way. You never forgot me? And Jola looked up. Daddy says love doesn't forget, even if it sleeps for a long time. Daddy's right. She leaned against Amaka, resting her head on her mother's chest. I used to cry a lot. I didn't want to talk in school. But now that you're here, I'm okay. Amaka wrapped her arms around her gently. You're not just okay, Anjola. You're strong and kind. You've taken care of my heart while I was away. Anjola nodded, squeezing her tight. They'll keep doing that. And then there was Amara, her namesake of grace, but with a spirit that sparkled like mischief bottled in sunshine. I'm the fastest in school, she announced, hopping onto the bed. And I fight boys. Amaka laughed. Do you win? Of course. But I don't hit. I use words and chase them. Daddy says I'm like you. I believe him. Amara crossed her arms. Why did you go to sleep for so long? The room fell quiet. Even Depo, who had entered with a tray of food, paused. Amaka held her daughter's gaze. I didn't mean to. Something happened and my body shut down. But I heard you. Every time you called. I wanted to wake up for you. Amara pouted. I told Daddy that if you didn't wake up before my next birthday, I'd fly to heaven and pull you back down. Tears slid down Amaka's cheeks as she pulled her daughter into a tight embrace. Thank you for calling me home. By mid-morning, the room was filled with laughter, drawings, half-eaten biscuits, and the soft sounds of children talking over one another. Depo stood in the doorway, arms folded, watching his family like a man witnessing a resurrection. Later, as the nurses came to roll the children out for school prep, they each kissed her cheeks. 3 soft pecks, 3 silent promises. And for the first time since waking, Amaka didn't feel like a ghost returning to life. She felt like a mother, rooted, present, chosen. 3 little lights had guided her home. The hospital room was quiet again. The children had gone home for the day, escorted by their nanny, with promises to return tomorrow and bring more biscuits and their favorite teddy. Depo had a late board meeting, and the nurses had dimmed the lights to help Amaka rest. But sleep evaded her. Instead, memories knocked softly, some with gentle taps, others with jarring echoes. They came in scattered images. The sound of heavy rain, a car's screeching halt, her chest tightening, Depo's voice shouting her name. And then, nothing. Blackness. She reached for the bedside drawer, retrieving the small dream book Ayatund had given her. Flipping through its pages helped steady her heart. Still, the more she remembered, the more questions surfaced. The accident, the pregnancy. Why had she never reached the hospital? Why had she been on the road that morning without medical assistance despite her condition? Why did something feel off? Just then, a knock came at the door. She turned. Come in. To her surprise, a woman walked in, tall, slim, in her early 40s. Her silk blouse and pencil skirt were crisp, her makeup flawless. She carried herself like someone who had spent too long in boardrooms. Auntie Grace? Amaka blinked, recognizing her father's former assistant. Grace gave a soft, uncertain smile. Amaka, my God, you really woke up. Amaka nodded slowly. They told me you stopped working with the company after the accident. Grace stiffened but sat at the edge of the bed. Yes, things changed after you went under. Silence stretched between them before Amaka finally asked, Grace, what really happened that day? Grace looked away. You were going to the hospital. That's what we were told. But you didn't call Depo. You didn't wait for security detail. You drove off in your own car. Alone. That doesn't sound like me. No, didn't. Amaka frowned. Then why would I do it? Grace hesitated. There were rumors that you'd had a fight with someone. Who? Grace's eyes held hers, reluctant. Your sister-in-law. Depo's cousin Vivian. Amaka's brows knit. Vivian? What was she doing in my house? She'd been staying over a lot during your last trimester. Helping out, or so we thought. But there were whispers. Staff saying she was pushing boundaries. A knot tightened in Amaka's chest. Are you saying she and Dapo? No one ever confirmed anything, and Dapo never entertained the talk. But that morning, something happened between you and her. Amaka's head spun. What exactly happened? Grace lowered her voice. The maid, Kemi, said she overheard shouting. That Vivian accused you of something. Or maybe warned you. Then, minutes later, you grabbed your hospital bag and drove off alone. The air in the room chilled. Amaka wrapped her arms around herself. I had contractions that morning, and instead of waiting for help, I just drove? That doesn't add up. No, it doesn't. And the CCTV footage from your house that day. Grace paused. What about it? Was mysteriously wiped. Amaka's throat tightened. Why didn't anyone tell Dapo? He was grieving, focused on you and the children. And Vivian left Lagos soon after. Went to the UK for business. A sick feeling settled in Amaka's stomach. What if her coma hadn't been a random twist of fate? What if someone had wanted her out of the picture? She exhaled shakily. Thank you, Auntie Grace, for telling me this. The cold sting of the therapy room greeted her the next morning. It wasn't as sterile as the hospital ward. There were warm-toned walls, motivational posters, and padded floor mats. But none of that dulled the pain that shot through her legs as the physiotherapist helped her out of the wheelchair. Easy, the woman said gently. Well, take it one step at a time, Madam Amaka. One step, Amaka murmured, teeth clenched. It had been nearly 2 weeks since she woke up. Though her mind was sharpening, her body still felt like a shell abandoned by time. Muscles weakened, joints stiff. She had to relearn how to walk, how to hold a spoon, even how to balance herself sitting upright. But she didn't complain. She had 3 reasons not to. Each day, Amaka pushed through the therapy sessions like a woman possessed. Her knuckles turned white from gripping parallel bars. Her arms shook under her own weight. Sweat poured down her face even during the most basic movements. But each time she closed her eyes, she saw Ayatun cheering from the doorway. She heard Amara saying, Mommy, you're so strong. She felt Njola wiping her face gently with a towel. And she saw Dapo, always watching from a quiet corner, never pushing, but always present. You can rest, he said one afternoon after a grueling session. I've rested for 4 years, she panted, collapsing into the wheelchair. Now it's time I get back what I lost. What she didn't say was, I need to be strong before I face the storm I suspect is coming. In the evenings, after the children had gone to bed and her medication kicked in, Amaka lay in silence, playing the scene over and over in her mind. Vivian, the missing CCTV footage, the unspoken tension. She remembered bits of Vivian's perfume. Spicy, aggressive, lingering in the living room that day. She remembered her hospital bag not being packed. Yet somehow she had driven off with it. She needed more information. So one evening, as Dapo sat beside her helping her sort through old mail, Amaka asked casually, Did you ever hear from Vivian after the accident? His eyes flicked up. Once or twice. She sent flowers. Called your mother. But she left for London and never came back. She used to be close to you, right? He hesitated. We grew up like cousins. She lived with us after her father died. Why? Amaka shrugged, feigning indifference. I barely remember her. Just flashes. Dapo leaned forward. If you're trying to figure out what happened that morning, I tried to. For years. But the CCTV was corrupted. Even the neighbors didn't see anything. You never suspected foul play? He shook his head. I didn't want to. I couldn't afford to. I was barely surviving. That night, while Dapo slept on the recliner beside her, Amaka quietly picked up his phone and searched for a name. Vivian A. Nothing. No recent calls. No chats. But her instinct screamed. She dialed Kemi, the old housemaid who had worked with them for years. Kemi, she whispered. Do you remember what happened the morning of my accident? The line was silent. Then Kemi whispered back, Madam, you should ask why Vivian took your car keys. You didn't drive yourself. She drove you. Amaka's blood froze. But I was told. Madam, Kemi said quickly, please, I don't want trouble. I have a new job now. Don't mention me. The call ended abruptly. Amaka dropped the phone, her pulse racing. Vivian had driven her. But why did the report say she had driven herself? Why did everyone lie? Why did the CCTV footage vanish? At the next therapy session, she pushed harder. She walked 6 steps without assistance. She used a fork without shaking. She smiled through the pain. Because now it wasn't just about healing. It was about getting strong enough to confront a woman who may have tried to erase her life and walk away clean. Depo noticed her sudden change in intensity. You're fighting like you've got something planned, he joked. Amaka only smiled faintly. I'm fighting because I finally remember how it feels to be alive. The sky over Lagos had turned gray by the time Depo pulled up to the hospital that Saturday evening. The storm clouds were heavy, just like Amaka's heart. From her window, she watched the rain drip along the glass like racing tears. Her body still ached, but now her pain had shifted, from muscle to memory, from flesh to fear. Vivian had driven her that day. Vivian had disappeared afterward. And somewhere along the line, the story had been changed. Someone had lied. Someone close. Depo walked into the room, holding 2 steaming takeaway bowls of egusi soup. I brought your favorite. Amaka smiled weakly. Thank you. They ate in silence. Depo spoon-fed her a few bites, gently wiping her lips afterward. He was as attentive as ever. Loving. Loyal. But tonight, she needed truth more than tenderness. Depo, she said softly, setting the bowl aside. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. He nodded slowly, tension creeping into his posture. Go ahead. What was your relationship with Vivian? Really like? While I was in the coma. He blinked. The spoon in his hand paused in midair. I told you, he said carefully. She was family. Nothing more. She stayed in our home a lot. Staff said you grew close. He leaned back in the chair, folding his arms. I won't lie to you. Vivian was around a lot in the first year. She helped with the kids, handled some home issues when I was grieving and running the business. But I kept it professional. She tried to blur lines. I didn't let her. Amaka's heart thudded. Did she ever make advances? He sighed. Yes. And you? He shook his head. I never touched her, Amaka. Not once. But I was weak emotionally. She comforted me at times, but it never crossed that line. I stayed loyal to you, even when they told me you might never wake up. Amaka studied his face. The way his eyes didn't flinch, the way his voice didn't shake. There was guilt in his eyes, but not the kind that came from betrayal. You didn't tell me she drove me the day of the accident, she said quietly. Depo froze. I just found out, Amaka added. You believed I drove myself. But she did. Why didn't you know that? His brows furrowed. Because that's not what the driver told me. He said you left alone. I didn't question it. I was at the hospital before I even understood what happened. She took me somewhere before the accident. Didn't she? I don't know. Amaka leaned back into her pillow. Her breathing was heavy now. Vivian manipulated you, she said. And I think she tried to get rid of me. Depo stood up abruptly, pacing. You're reaching. I'm remembering. He turned back to her, his voice firm. If she did anything to harm you, I swear to you, I'll find out. I'll get the truth. But I need you to be sure. Not just suspicious. She's gone now. She fled. That tells me something. Depo exhaled, visibly shaken. I thought I protected you. But maybe I was too numb to see what was right in front of me. Amaka reached out and took his hand. Then see it now. Stand with me now. Their eyes locked, and for a long moment, the storm outside was mirrored in their silence. Loud but unspoken, gray but honest. Depo knelt beside her again, this time not as a husband soothing his wife, but as a man beginning to realize that his silence might cost the woman he loved 4 years of her life. I'll bring her back if I have to, he vowed. You'll have your answers. And Amaka whispered, I need them, because healing wasn't just in walking again, it was in walking through the fire of truth. The glow of Mother's Day still lingered in the hospital room the next morning. Flowers on the side table, glitter in the bedsheets, and the gentle scent of cake in the air. But Amaka's heart was no longer light. She had felt joy, yes, but behind that joy brewed something deeper, something darker, truth trying to surface. She had spent weeks quietly collecting whispers. Vivian had driven her that day. CCTV footage had been wiped. Kemi, the former maid, had warned her to stay silent. And still, the question echoed in her mind. Why? Why would Vivian want her out of the picture? And why had Depo, sharp, loyal Depo, never seen it? That afternoon, while Depo was in a shareholder strategy meeting and the kids were in daycare, Amaka made the call. She had kept the number hidden in her notebook, written beneath Ayatun's poem. It belonged to Emeka, the family's former driver, who left shortly after the accident. Hello? His voice came through, hesitant. Emeka, it's Madam Amaka. A sharp gasp. Jesus. Madam. You're awake? Yes, and I need answers. He hesitated. I no want Waala. You already have Waala if you don't talk. Emeka, tell me the truth. That morning, did I drive myself? A pause. No ma. I see everything. You want go hospital, but Madam Vivian say she go drive you. You no want enter. You two argue for gate. Then she slap you, force you enter motor. Amaka's chest tightened. She what? I swear. You day cry. She say you too proud. Say Depo go know the truth soon. You day shout, leave me alone, but she lock door, start car. She drive like person way day mad. She no take road to hospital. She drive toward Lekki Bridge. And then, we follow Una for back, me and Gardner. Rain start fall. Suddenly, I see her swerve. Your car hit gutter. I run go pull door open, your head bleed, belly big. She say call Depo. Tell em she drove herself. Then she run enter her own car and disappear. Amaka gripped the phone, knuckles white. You told the truth? I try ma, but dem fire me next day. No reason. Just say my service no needed again. Her body trembled. Thank you, Emeka. You've done enough. She ended the call, her mind in a whirlwind. Vivian had intentionally lied. She had endangered her and her unborn babies. She had manipulated Depo, altered the narrative, erased evidence, and then disappeared. But why? That night, Depo returned to the hospital late. He found Amaka wide awake, sitting upright with her fists clenched. Where's your phone? She asked coldly. He froze. It's here. Why? Because you're going to call Vivian. Now, Depo's eyes narrowed. Why? Because I know the truth, and she's going to answer to it. He reluctantly dialed. After 3 rings, a smooth, confident voice came through. Depo? Wow, what a surprise. It's not me, he said, handing the phone to Amaka. There was a pause. Then Vivian's voice turned sharp. Amaka? You took me that day, Amaka said, voice even. You lied to everyone. You nearly killed me. Why? Silence. Then came a mocking chuckle. You really did wake up. I did. And I remember the slap, the detour, the crash. Vivian's voice changed. Flat. Bitter. Because everything was always about you, Amaka. Your business. Your beauty. Your perfect marriage. Your power. Depo was supposed to marry me before he ever met you. You stole him. I didn't steal him. He chose me. And I tried to help him move on while you slept like a statue, Vivian spat. You should have stayed asleep. Depo stood, face twisted with rage. I'm recording this. Vivian laughed. You're too late. I'm in Dubai now. But tell Amaka this, next time she wants to play queen, she better learn how to survive the palace games. Click. The call ended. Silence. Amaka's chest heaved. Depo slowly lowered the phone. She was behind everything. She wasn't just jealous, Amaka said, shaking. She was dangerous. Depo sat down slowly, as if the truth had knocked the wind out of him. I should have seen it. I should have protected you. You tried, Amaka whispered. But now, it's time we protect our children. She can't come near them. She won't, Depo said, fire returning to his voice. I'll get legal action started immediately. Amaka nodded, tears welling in her eyes. She had found the truth. It had burned, but it had also set her free. And now, she was no longer a woman waking from a coma. She was a woman reborn. The doors of Adiwale Holdings Lagos headquarters slowly opened as Amaka's wheelchair was gently rolled through the front lobby. For a moment, time stood still. The same marble floors she had once walked in heels. The same logo on the wall she helped design. The same scent of jasmine oil used by her secretary that once filled her office. Only now it was different. She was different. No longer a silent name on a hospital record. No longer a woman in limbo. Amaka Adewale was back. And this time, every step, every breath, every move would be intentional. She wore a teal-blue blazer, her posture straight even in her wheelchair, her face free of makeup except for lip balm and light powder. Her natural curls were pinned into a side bun, her eyes sharper than they'd been in years. Board members and staff froze as they saw her glide past. "Madam Amaka, is it really her? She's alive?" "Yes," she said clearly, turning her head slightly toward them. "And I'm here to stay." Depo walked beside her, silent, proud, protective. When the boardroom doors opened and she was wheeled inside, silence fell. Some stood in respect. Others looked down in guilt. But all waited. She looked around at the faces, those who had moved on, and those who had held space. "I was asleep for 4 years, she began, her voice calm but commanding. "And in those years I missed much. First steps, birthdays, betrayal, and resilience." The room stayed still. "I came here not to fight for what's mine. I came to reclaim it. This company bears my name, my values, my vision, and now I intend to lead again." One director, a gray-bearded man, cleared his throat. "Do you intend to resume full leadership?" She smiled. "Not today, but soon. And when I do, I'll do it not just as CEO, but as a mother, a woman who faced death and woke up, and a leader who has more clarity than ever before." No one challenged her. They didn't need to. She had already won. Later that evening, Amaka sat in the garden of their estate, watching the triplets run through the sprinklers in their pajamas. Ayatund wore goggles, pretending to be a deep-sea explorer, and Jola was singing into a flower like a microphone. Amara chased a butterfly as though it had stolen her snacks. Depo placed a soft blanket over her legs and handed her a cup of warm zobo. "Home suits you," he said. She looked at him, her eyes soft. "You suit me." He knelt beside her, pulling out a small velvet box. "Depo," she gasped. He opened it. Inside was a new wedding ring, simpler than the original. No diamonds, just gold, engraved with the words, "Still yours, always." "I want to renew our vows," he said. "Not because I broke them, but because we survived them." Tears slid down her cheeks. She nodded. "Yes," she whispered, "to everything." The final letter. That night, as the household settled and silence returned, Amaka sat at her desk and wrote her final letter in the journal shed kept since waking. "To the woman I used to be, I forgive you for not seeing the signs. I love you for surviving the pain. I honor you for the strength you left me in your absence. You slept through storms, but now, you rise with the sun. Love, Amaka." She closed the book. Then she stood, unaided, for the first time since the accident. And she walked to her children's room, one slow step at a time, with a heart that had been broken, betrayed, and rebuilt. Because this wasn't just the end of a coma. It was the beginning of a new dawn. The sun filtered through the glass walls of the newly built Amaka Adiwale Women's Center in Ikoyi, Lagos. Mothers pushed strollers, toddlers giggled in the waiting area, and staff in mint green scrubs moved briskly with purpose. And at the center of it all stood Amaka, no longer in a wheelchair, no longer fragile, strong, upright, and radiant. She wore a flowing cream blouse and high-waisted navy trousers, her gold brooch glinting in the light. Her curls had grown fuller, now pinned up in a natural bun. Confidence followed her like a fragrance. Beside her, Depo held her hand, as the press clicked away and a ribbon was being readied for the ceremonial cut. "A year ago, I was in a hospital bed," she began, speaking into the microphone with poise. fighting to remember who I was, fighting to heal. And now I stand here, not because of my strength alone, but because love carried me. My husband, my children, my community. She turned and looked at Dapo. He smiled, pride shining in his eyes. This center is for the silent fighters, she continued. Women who've survived childbirth trauma, coma, postpartum depression, or abuse. You are seen. You are strong. And we are here to walk with you. The ribbon was cut. Applause roared. But deep in her heart, Amaka knew the work was only beginning. Not just in philanthropy, but within her own family, where healing was still ongoing. Back at home, that evening, the triplets burst into the living room in matching pajamas. Now 5 years old and full of energy. Ayatund had a gap-toothed smile and toy walkie-talkie, and Jola carried a sketchpad and crayons. Amara. Well, Amara wore fairy wings and had declared herself commander of the house. Amaka scooped them all into a hug. Mommy, Ayatund said, when are we going to the beach house again? Soon, baby. After Mommy rests her legs a bit. Can we fly in the helicopter this time? Amara added. Dapo walked in at that moment, laughing. No helicopters. Your mommy just got home. They settled into their routine. Dinner, storytelling, warm baths. But when the children were tucked in and the house grew still, Amaka sat at her window, staring out at the stars. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You may have escaped the first time, but not everything stays buried. Amaka. We all pay eventually. V. Her heart skipped. Vivian. Again. The message burned into Amaka's mind long after the screen dimmed. You may have escaped the first time, but not everything stays buried, Amaka. We all pay eventually. V. She stared at it, heart thudding in her chest. Not in fear, but in a chilling realization. Vivian was back. Not in Lagos. Not yet. But somewhere out there, watching, waiting, threatening the peace Amaka had worked so hard to rebuild. She didn't reply. Not yet. Instead, she screenshotted the message, encrypted it, and sent it to her personal investigator, a trusted contact from her days in executive security operations during her tenure at Adewale Holdings. Then she turned to the mirror in her room. For a long moment, she studied the woman staring back. Her face was stronger, her eyes wiser, but beneath it all, there was still a flicker of vulnerability. I want run, she whispered to herself. Not this time. 3 days later, the investigator, Ikenna, arrived at her home office with a file in hand. She's resurfaced, he said. Vivian. Amaka sat forward, steady. Where? She's been moving through Ghana and Abidjan under different aliases. But she recently purchased a small condo in South Africa, Cape Town, under the name Vivian Eam, the same initials she used on the flight logs 4 years ago, right after your accident. She's watching us. She's not just watching, Madam Amaka, he said. She's gathering something. I found bank transfers to 2 Lagos-based journalists, and 1 deposit to a former staff member, someone who once worked at Adewale Holdings under your father. Why? She's trying to dig into your past, maybe smear your image, or worse, build a lie strong enough to discredit you. Amaka leaned back. Her fingers slowly drummed on the armrest. Vivian had failed to destroy her body. Now she was targeting her legacy. That night, Amaka and Dapo sat on the terrace under the stars. Ikenna confirmed it, she said. She's resurfaced? Amaka nodded. Cape Town. And she's paying people to dig into me, probably to create a scandal. I don't know what yet, but it won't stop with words. Dapo clenched his jaw. I'll tighten security around the kids. And I need a press strategy, Amaka added. If she tries to spin a story, we'll need to stay ahead of it. You think she'll strike publicly? No, not yet. She wants to haunt me first. Break my confidence. Make me doubt my own reflection again. Dapo turned to her. Do you? She looked him straight in the eye. No, but I want to know what I don't remember. Later that night, she stood before the mirror again. She touched her cheek. There, beneath her left eye, was the faintest scar. A cut from the car crash. A mark she never noticed until the message arrived. And as she stared, memories returned. Not full scenes, but sensations. A car speeding through rain. Vivian screaming, "You'll never have him to yourself." A baby's kick. A sharp pain. Amaka gasped. That morning, she hadn't been unconscious from the crash alone. She had been drugged. Her vision swam as the room spun. She gripped the edge of the dresser and whispered, "She didn't just drive me off the road. She silenced me. And now, the woman in the mirror didn't just want revenge. She wanted justice." The next morning, Amaka sat in the private conference room of Adewale Holdings. Though she had officially resumed as executive chair 6 months earlier, she had rarely used this particular space. But today she requested it. Not for a board meeting, not for a press briefing, but for a confrontation. She tapped the corner of the sleek glass table as the door opened slowly, and in stepped Mr. Godwin Ajayi, her late father's longtime accountant. A man she hadn't spoken to since before her coma. He was older now, gray hair curling behind his ears, but he still walked with the same self-important stride. He paused when he saw her. "Madam Amaka." "Sit," she said, calm and clear. He obeyed, glancing nervously at the camera in the corner. "There's no recording today," she said. "Just you and me." He relaxed too quickly. "Mr. Ajayi," Amaka began, folding her arms. "Do you remember the days leading up to my coma?" He gave a small smile. "Of course. Very emotional time. We were all worried." "Cut the performance," she interrupted. "I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here for facts." His face stiffened. "Vivian made transfers to your offshore account. In February, a month before my accident. And again 2 months after. I have the receipts." His jaw dropped. I don't know what." "She paid you to wipe something. Was it financial records? Surveillance footage? Something from my home system?" He looked away. "I only did what was asked." "What was asked," she echoed, "was to help cover an attempted murder." Silence. "I didn't know she'd go that far," he whispered. "But you helped her." Mr. Ajayi finally spoke quietly. "She told me you were going to expose some irregularities in the family trust. That you had discovered something in the accounts, and she didn't want a scandal." Amaka's breath caught. She had found something weeks before the coma. She remembered now. Her father's retirement trust fund had irregular withdrawals. Vivian had been managing that account unofficially. "Why didn't you come clean after the crash?" she asked. "She paid me more than I'd ever seen," he said. "And when you fell into a coma, I thought it was over." Amaka stood slowly, her voice low and cold. "It's not over." Mr. Ajayi swallowed. "What happens now? You'll return every kobo. You'll testify if needed. And you'll resign quietly from every family board you sit on." He opened his mouth to protest, but her eyes silenced him. "You made a deal with a snake," she said. "Now deal with the consequences." That evening, Amaka returned home and went through the encrypted drive Ikenna had recovered, a backup of old house security footage. One folder was marked, March 10th, Vivian Access. She clicked play. The footage was low quality, but the audio was clear. Vivian's voice. "You really think you can take everything and walk away?" Amaka's voice, firm. "I'm not taking what's not mine. I'm cleaning up what was stolen, from my father, from this family." Vivian. "Then you'll lose everything, including that baby you love so much." Then came a shove, a scream, a door slam, and silence. Amaka sat frozen, fists clenched. She hadn't been imagining it. She had confronted Vivian. She had stood her ground, and Vivian had tried to erase her. Later that night, Depo found her in the study. "Ajayi confessed," she said. "Vivian didn't just want me gone. She wanted the truth buried with me." Depo sat beside her, jaw tight. "Well, expose her." "She won't stop, Depo. Not until she's behind bars or I am. Then we bring everything to the police." Amaka looked up, eyes filled with fire. "No, not yet. I want her to see me, to know I remember everything. I want her to watch me walk into the storm she created, and walk out untouched." The ballroom at the Eco-Atlantic Presidential Towers shimmered under golden chandeliers. It was the night of the Women of Resilience Awards, a high-profile charity gala celebrating women who had triumphed through adversity in business, health, and public service. Cameras flashed, journalists buzzed, celebrities mingled, but all eyes were on one woman as she descended the curved staircase in a flowing black velvet gown with embroidered gold trimming. Amaka Adewale. It was her first major public appearance since the Coma, and the media had turned it into a spectacle. Not just for her return to public life, but for her speech that would close the night. But Amaka wasn't there for applause. She was there to bait a snake. Earlier that week, Amaka had leaked a very specific headline to one of the press contacts she knew Vivian still paid. Amaka Adewale to announce the launch of her private investigative memoir at Gala, featuring never-before-seen evidence from the day of her accident. Vivian wouldn't be able to resist, and she didn't. Halfway through the evening, as guests toasted and applauded, Amaka stepped off the main stage to greet donors. Depo stood nearby, ever watchful, while Ikenna circled in the background, eyes on every entrance. And then, he spotted her, Vivian, disguised under a short curly wig, high heels, and a silver dress with a plunging neckline. Her features were sharper, leaner, but unmistakable. She was standing by the farthest corner table, a champagne flute in hand, her eyes locked on Amaka like a vulture circling its prey. She came, Ikenna whispered through the earpiece. Should we move? No, Amaka replied coolly. Let her come to me, and she did. Later, in the dimly lit hallway near the VIP lounge, Amaka stood alone, facing a large canvas of her portrait, painted by a young artist in honor of her survival. Then came footsteps, slow, confident. Beautiful painting, Vivian's voice slithered behind her. A little too holy for a woman who's about to bleed. Amaka turned calmly. You never learn, do you? Vivian tilted her head. You were supposed to be gone, dead, out of the way. But I'm still standing. Vivian stepped closer. That recording of a J? That was cute. But I always have backups. Always have insurance. Then why are you so afraid? Vivian's face darkened. Because you turned Depo against me. Because you turned the narrative. You made yourself the victim. I was the victim, Amaka snapped. But I'm also the survivor. Silence stretched, thick with history and rage. You know what hurts the most, Vivian? Amaka said, voice trembling. That you weren't just jealous, you were family. You knew I was pregnant. You knew I was vulnerable. And you still drove me off that road. Vivian's mask cracked for just a second. Because he was mine first, she hissed. He was mine. You stole everything. You don't destroy people you love, Amaka whispered. You don't erase them to win. I didn't lose, Vivian spat. You'll never be safe. Just then, two security guards stepped forward behind her. Depo appeared at Amaka's side, and Ikenna revealed himself from the shadows, holding up a live audio recorder. Every word has been captured, he said coolly. Vivian froze. You lured me here? No, Amaka said, voice steady. You brought yourself. The guards took her arm. She jerked back, spitting insults and threats, but there was no power left in her. Vivian was done. As she was escorted away, Amaka turned back toward her portrait. Later that night, Amaka stood on stage, hand in Depo's, the ballroom erupting in applause as she received the final honor of the evening. She smiled into the crowd, but her words were simple. Resilience isn't about surviving the fire, it's about learning how to rise from the ashes. Thank you for helping me rise. 3 weeks had passed since Vivian's arrest. The footage of her confession had made headlines across Nigeria. News anchors dissected every second, social media erupted, and suddenly, the story of the billionaire's wife who woke from a 4-year coma to uncover the truth became a household legend. But for Amaka Adewale, the noise didn't matter. She wasn't chasing revenge anymore. She was chasing peace. At the family's beachfront villa in Alash, the world felt far away. Palm trees swayed gently, waves whispered against the shore, and the cries of seagulls filled the salt-scented air. Amaka stood barefoot on the sand in a flowing white robe. Her curls danced in the breeze, and her face, free of makeup, was serene. Behind her, the triplets chased each other with seashells and foam swords. "Mommy! Look, I found a crab!" Ayatun shouted. "You, don't bring it close!" Anjola shrieked. "I want to keep it as a pet," Amara declared, proudly cradling a bucket of water. Amaka laughed, turning toward them. "No pets today. Let the crab enjoy his life." They giggled and ran off again. Dapo approached quietly, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "You look peaceful," he whispered against her ear. "I feel it," she murmured. "No boardrooms, no nurses, no enemies lurking around corners. Just sand, sea, and sticky fingers." Dapo chuckled. "You earned this peace, Amaka." She turned in his arms and looked up at him. "No, we earned it." That afternoon, while the kids napped and Dapo prepared grilled fish, Amaka sat in the garden with her journal. The same one she began the night she first woke up. She flipped to the final page and began to write. "A year ago, I woke up in pain, confusion, and silence. Now I wake up to laughter, sunlight, and freedom. They tried to bury me under lies, but I remembered who I was. Not just a woman, not just a wife, not just a mother, but a warrior who came back for her crown. This peace, I didn't find it. I built it, one breath at a time. And now I will live in it, not as a survivor, but as a queen who learned to reign from the ashes." She closed the journal. The wind picked up and flipped it open again, almost playfully. She smiled. "You want more?" she whispered. "Maybe later." That evening, they sat as a family on a blanket, watching the sun sink into the ocean. Amaka held one child on each side, and Dapo had Ayatund on his lap. As the sky turned orange and purple, Amara whispered, "Mommy, are you ever going to leave again?" Amaka kissed her forehead. "Never, my love. I'm here for every sunrise and every bedtime story." Dapo squeezed her hand gently. "Hey, race to second chances." "No," she said, eyes shining. "Hey, race to finally living the life we almost lost." And with that, the last light of day kissed her skin, and Amaka Adewale, wife, mother, survivor, finally found what she had been searching for all along: peace in her hands. The Lego sky was painted in soft pastels as the sun began its descent over Ikoyi. The newly renovated Amaka Adewale Women's Center stood like a monument of resilience. Glass, marble, and ivy-touched pillars surrounding a courtyard where women gathered in honor and hope. It was the 10th anniversary of the center, and tonight's event was more than a celebration. It was a reminder that one woman's pain could ripple into purpose for thousands. Inside the grand hall, the seats were full. Survivors, philanthropists, health professionals, and students all sat waiting. Candles lined the aisles. Photographs of Amaka adorned the walls, her smile captured in every phase of her second life. Mother, leader, warrior. The stage was decorated with gold lilies, Amaka's favorite flower. At the front row, Dapo Adewale sat in a dark gray agbada, calm but clearly emotional. To his right sat Ayatund, now 15, tall and already showing signs of his father's confidence. Beside him was Anjola, a soft-spoken teenager with paint on her nails and a sketchpad resting on her knees. But all eyes were on Amara. She stepped onto the stage, her green suit shimmering under the lights. Her skin glowed, her hair in a full crown of curls, and her presence, undeniably Amaka. The audience rose to their feet. The applause was thunderous. Dapo whispered to himself, "She's her mother's daughter." Amara approached the podium, heart pounding, but she wasn't afraid. She took a deep breath and spoke into the microphone. 10 years ago, my mother cut the ribbon at this very center. I was 5 years old and more interested in the balloon arch than her speech. But I remember one thing. She knelt beside me after the ceremony, held my little hand in hers, and said, "This is for every woman who woke up with no one to hold her hand." Back then, I didn't understand. Now I do. She paused. The crowd was silent. My mother didn't just wake up from a coma. She woke up from betrayal, from grief, from silence, and she didn't come back to build walls of power. She came back to build bridges of healing. She taught me that being soft doesn't mean being weak, that being vulnerable is not failure, that being a mother, a wife, and a woman in pain doesn't stop you from being a force. She made me promise that I would never forget the faces of women who are told to be quiet. Today, I keep that promise. The audience watched, eyes shining. So, from this day forward, I will take on the legacy of the Amaka Adewale Center, not as a memorial, but as a living promise. I may not have walked through fire like she did, but I carry her flame, and I will guard it with my life. Applause thundered. Women stood with tears in their eyes. Some clapped, some hugged, some simply closed their eyes and whispered, "Thank you." Backstage, Amara wiped her face with a cloth. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from overwhelming emotion. Depo entered quietly, holding something. He smiled and said, "Your mom would have been proud. She was here," Amara whispered, touching her chest. "I felt her." Depo handed her a framed photo. Amaka standing in front of the same podium, 10 years earlier, in her velvet gown and signature golden brooch. "I wanted you to have this," he said. "She gave a speech here once. You gave something greater tonight, a vow." They hugged, and in that moment time folded. The past kissed the present. Grief melted into grace. Outside the center, that night, Amara walked alone in the moonlit garden behind the building. The engraved marble sign caught her eye. The Amaka Adewale Women's Center, where women rise even from ashes. She placed her hand on it. "Mommy," she whispered, "thank you for waking up." And with the stars shining above and peace glowing inside her, Amara Adewale, the torchbearer, took her mother's legacy into tomorrow. The salty wind of Alash Beach rustled through the palms as Depo's private speedboat pulled into the dock. The sun was just beginning to dip over the water, bathing the shoreline in golden light. For the first time in years, Depo, Amara, Anjola, and Ayatund had returned to the family's old beach villa. It was Amaka's favorite place, the house she called her healing nest during her recovery. Her laughter had once filled these walls. Her soft humming used to drift through the garden. Her footprints still lived on the wooden deck. Now it was quiet. The waves whispered. The walls remembered. "Dad," Ayatund said as he unlocked the doors. "This place still smells like her." "It does," Depo murmured, "because she never really left." Uncovering the chest. That evening, after a simple grilled fish dinner and a bonfire, the children wandered around exploring. Anjola settled into the art nook, where her mother once painted. Amara walked barefoot along the shoreline, eyes locked on the horizon. And Ayatund, curious and methodical like his father, wandered into the study. There, under a carved mahogany table, he saw a small, dust-covered wooden chest. Simple. Locked. "Dad," he called. "There's something here." Depo came quickly, eyes widening as he saw the old box. That belonged to your mother. She used to keep letters and small gifts in there. I haven't seen it since." He paused. "Since before the gala." He pried the lock open with a small flat tool. Inside lay 3 sealed white envelopes, carefully labeled in Amaka's delicate handwriting. To Amara, to Anjola, to Ayatund. The children gathered around him, breathless. "She wrote us letters?" Anjola whispered. "She must have known you'd read them when you were ready," Depo said quietly. "Can we open them?" Amara asked. Depo nodded, voice thick. "She wrote them for you. They're yours." They sat together on the veranda, ocean breeze fluttering the edges of the pages, and opened the envelopes in unison. To Amara, my voice. "My fierce, bright girl. If you're reading this, you're becoming the woman I dreamed about when I held you for the first time. You didn't cry. You looked up at me with quiet fire, just like I used to. You're going to inherit more than my name. You'll inherit my battles, my scars, my victories. But remember this, Amara. Don't ever dim your voice to be accepted. The world will call you too loud, too stubborn, too ambitious. Let them. You were never born to be contained. Speak truth. break glass, rewrite rules. And when people ask where your courage came from, tell them, I come from a woman who woke up and stayed awake. I will always be proud of you. I see you even now. Mommy, to Njola, my light, my sweet, gentle girl, the one who loved soft songs and whispering to flowers. You were always the peace in the middle of every storm. I know life will sometimes try to turn your softness into silence, but don't let it. Kindness is power. You will be the one who reminds people of beauty, even in brokenness. Whether it's through art, music, or simply your heart, shine, Jola. And let no one shame you for being soft in a sharp world. I leave you this, the courage to stay open. You saved me with your innocence. Now go save others with your light. I love you deeply, always. Mommy, to Ayatund, my precious son. You were the calm one, always watching, always asking questions. And I know now that you were watching even when I wasn't awake. One day, the world may try to push you to be hard, emotionless, unbreakable. But listen, my son, true strength is not in hiding your heart. It's in honoring it. Love freely. Cry if you must. Protect, yes, but also nurture. You carry your father's wisdom and my soul. That makes you a king of peace. And when you one day become a man others look to, remind them that greatness begins with grace. I'm always with you, Ayatund. Mommy. They sat in silence after reading, the waves whispering like a mockus voice between them. Amara wiped a tear, clutching her letter to her chest. She knew who we'd become, and Jola nodded. It's like she saw our future before we did. Depo stood slowly. Your mom never did anything halfway. Not love, not leadership, not even goodbye. They stayed there until the stars filled the sky, reading the letters again and again, hearts full, hands linked. The sea didn't feel lonely that night. Felt like Amaka was everywhere. In the wind, in their laughter, in the legacy she left behind, stitched into their souls.